I was reminded by Sandy to announce my presentation. I'm doing a presentation at Sandy's social media meetup, which is a fantastic meetup, not just because it's at Dave & Buster's up the street with a happy hour right before and right after. Not because of that. It's because there's tons of great people. We get about 50, 60, 70, 80, sometimes 100 people coming on a Monday evening at 7 o'clock. And the next one, I'll be talking about integrating WordPress with social media. All year we've been hearing about social media at Sandy's group, and a lot of great things. And my goal is to try to pull it together, do a lot of hands-on application. This is how you get your blog, this is how you get your website integrated in with the different social media sites. So it should be fun. At the very worst, you have a few drinks and whatever I say won't really matter. Today we're very fortunate to have one of the illustrious WordPress developers who has spoken at WordCamp and will speak at WordCamp New York next month. And Scott has been developing for WordPress for how many years now? How long? Just second year of developing. And you've done a lot in that time. He's a developer with a CMS framework called Pods. It's really raising a lot of eyebrows. People didn't realize that you can do that with WordPress. You can really do a lot. And today he's going to give us a peek under the hood at just what Pods is. And he's not going to sing his WordPress as a CMS song, unfortunately. We promised that, but we do have that on tape from the WordCamp. Without any further ado, Scott Kingsley Clark.
Thank you very much. All right, well, my name is Scott Clark, like he was saying. If you guys want to contact me, I have business cards, plenty of them, so just come meet me after the presentation and we'll talk. All right, so what my presentation is about today is about exploring Pods, a CMS framework for WordPress. And what I mean by CMS framework is it's something that makes it easier for you to develop your different types of content. WordPress already has a couple of different ones, so we'll talk about that. So an introduction to content types is we have posts with WordPress, mostly for your blog or news, press releases, whatever you want to do with that. We have pages, which is mostly static content. It really depends on what you want to use it for, but a lot of people use pages mainly for static content. Then we have comments, which is like social interaction. It can be put on your post pages and even attachments. Then we have links, like blog roll, shows up in your sidebar. And we have media, and it's media. You got images, video, audio, etc. So what happens when you want to maybe look at other content types? Well, you have a couple of different options. You can use plugins that add additional content types. The pro with that is there are plenty of choices, like Next-Gen Gallery. Then we have variety, varying community followings. Lots of them have really great backgrounds and lots of support. But then you have a con there, and that is often, like Next-Gen Gallery, they're predefined. You can't really customize exactly every little bit of it. And then it's a nightmare when you try to update that to the latest version and try to copy all of your code over. But when you say, well, what can I do with WordPress just by itself? And that's when you come into custom post type and taxonomies. And basically what that is another way to say post. It's the same table and the same information there. So the pro is you can stay within the WordPress structure and the familiar loop. If you're familiar with development, you'll know that in your templates, when you're displaying posts, you have a specific loop. It's like a for each or while, or pretty much that stuff. And that's great. It's very easy to use, very familiar for a lot of people. Then the cons is really it's just another name for a post. You don't get any benefit. It's just another name for it. Separates it out, uses the same system. Everything's great. I'm not saying that's bad. There's always a great use for that. But what about complex content types? You're getting into relationships, etc. Well, WordPress is pretty restricted right now, and that makes us sad. But there's plenty of plugins out there to help. That makes us happy. And you have the real estate plugins out there. There's plenty of other ones. Insert your random idea here. Just whatever plugin out there is out there. Like Flickr, you can use Flickr to manage your content and then integrate that. There's tons of ideas. But when you get to customizing your complex content types, that's when it gets really expensive. Time, money, paying for developers, etc. That's what we aim to fix. There are two of the most well-known plugins out there that I'll talk about real fast, and that allows you to build out your custom content types. There's Pt1 CMS framework, which I'm going to be presenting on tonight, and then that gives you custom content types. You have data freedom, which means it's not stored in the WordPress post table. It's stored in a real relational table. That means you have your table of documents, for instance, you have Excel document, and you're storing each piece of data in a separate column, and each row is a separate row. Very familiar for everyone, but when you get into WordPress, the way WordPress handles that is you have a table that's a little bit like that, but then you have another table that stores just a key value for each of those extra fields that you have. And that can get very heavy, especially when you scale up. And the implementation for Pt1 CMS framework is outside the WordPress loop, but that doesn't mean you can't use it within it. It just means that it doesn't use or utilize the WordPress loop in its functioning. There's also one called Flutter. It has custom post types, just like posts. It's still the same table. You have custom right panels, so on the left side of the navigation in WordPress, you'll see posts, pages, and then let's say widgets, or I guess that's not really a good one for WordPress, gadgets. And then you have implementation within the WordPress loop, very familiar for everyone. They have a couple of different functions that you can use in addition to the WordPress loop. And that's pretty great. So I'm going to introduce you to pods. So say hello to pods. Hi. And we're going to ask what does pods do? And then pod says, I'm going to make it easier for developers to add complex content types to WordPress. What about non-developers? I'm working on making that easier for non-developers too. All right, I'm a dork, but I had to use that just to lighten the mood. Now for a demo of pods. At WordCamp, if you were there, you noticed that I was going through a lot of the technical stuff through a presentation, and that really wasn't giving you the full details and the full hands-on experience. If you noticed, when Randy was presenting, he had a great way of doing it. And I'm not as smart as him. I didn't record this before this. I wanted to make it exactly with you guys following me, answering questions as we go along, and building out a new section of the DFWWP website. Tony sent me some stuff on September 24th. I was going to build part of it out and then build some extra stuff, but I decided not to do that because if I did that, then you would wonder where did all this stuff come from. So I'm going to attempt to do something very, very complex in a little bit of time. So let me try to do that. All right, first I'm going to go to the DFWWP website. It's very simple. We have just a P2 theme here from Automatic. And so we're going to log in. I've already installed pods, so this is a fresh install. You can do this right now if you want on your own blog and build exactly what I'm building. Nothing I'm doing here is anything difficult. It's a little difficult, but you can follow along my steps, and it should be very easy once you understand everything as a whole. So one of the specs here from Tony was that he wanted to have a membership directory, and that's a great thing to have. You can build it with plenty of plugins, and you can even use BuddyPress. But for today, we're going to use pods, and I'll show you how to build it. So let's start with pods. And I'm already over here on the setup panel, pods. And I'm going to go ahead and add a new one. I didn't anticipate this part.